The NFL in the 1970s was brutal. At times, the action on the field was indistinguishable from a street fight. Football in this era was a game made up of ruthless men, some more about the violence itself compared to the game. And perhaps none of them were more vicious, more feared than Lyle Alzado.
And anybody who tells me that they go out there to have fun playing football, they're a liar. Because this game isn't fun. This game is a war.
ESPN labeled Alzado as a, quote, violent, combative player known for his short temper. He once threw a chair at a newspaper reporter and said his only regret was that he missed hitting him. Another time, he threw a helmet at his opponent. And with a chance to clear the air, this was his response in the aftermath.
I don't like Chris Ward. He's a big mouth, he's a hot dog, he runs his mouth, and if I had a chance to have him swallow his helmet, I'd have done it.
Alzado never backed down, not even against Hall of Fame left tackles. Not only would Alzado fight any player in his path, but Alzado took it a step further by literally stepping in the ring with the greatest of all time.
The coach is hearing his punches being thrown. The best flurry of the day.
But in the end, Alzado's life ended in tragedy.
You know, the big, massive guy that I was, it was all, I hate to admit this, but it was all phony.
A man who would build his career on a lie paid the ultimate price for it. The story of Lyle Alzado serves as a cautionary tale, and we will dive deeper into his story in this video. Now, really quickly, this video is sponsored by SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. And even though football season is over, there are more than 70,000 events every single day available on SeatGeek, which includes concerts, other sports, festivals, and more. To pass the time to next football season, why not go out and do something fun? I plan on getting out and going to a few concerts throughout the summer. Plus, it's so easy using the SeatGeek app. They put all the tickets across the web in one place to make sure that you are getting a good deal. Every ticket is rated on a scale from 1 to 10. So look for the green dots. Green means good and red means bad. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. And I got you guys. Use my code KTO for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code KTO. Make sure to click the link in the description to download the app.
You know, the big, massive guy that I was, I hate to admit this, but it was all phony.
Scouting college talent in the 1970s was quite a bit different than it is today. With much less access to college tape, coaches would go on long road trips to see what kind of talent was out there. It's a tough, grindy way of doing business, but it was the only way at the time. With that said, in 1971, Denver Broncos assistant coach Stan Jones was on a college scouting trip when, unfortunately, his car broke down. Stuck in Montana for a few days, Jones decided to stop by the local college, Montana Tech, and check out their team on the off chance that they had some under-the-radar prospect. Now, Montana Tech was a small NAIA school, so the odds that they had anyone near NFL talent was remarkably low. But hey, he's got to do something to pass the time. Anyways, when Montana Tech's coach pulled out some game tape, attempting to show off their star running back, Jones instead noticed a player from their opponent, a surprisingly quick defensive end making play after play. Jones acquired the player's name, Lyle Alzado. Convinced this kid had real NFL talent, Jones reported back with the rest of the Denver Broncos front office. Word eventually reached Alzado, and when he mentioned to his teammates that he was going to be playing in the NFL, it was met with laughter. From the Wichita Eagle newspaper in 1978, quote, "Yeah, sure, Alzado, you're going to play in the National Football League, right? And the cow's going to fly to the moon, too." Well, a few months later, the Broncos selected this completely unknown prospect from a small NAIA school in South Dakota. For Alzado, this was a massive opportunity in an otherwise turbulent life.
We lived through a lot of abuse.
How did you grow up?
Lousy. Really lousy.
In the 1978 edition of the Daytona Beach Sunday newspaper, Alzado described his childhood as a horror scene. He grew up with an abusive alcoholic father who eventually left for good, leaving Lyle's mother on her own with 5 kids. Due to being picked on for being dirt poor, Lyle began fighting others from a young age. He got suspended multiple times for fights throughout high school, which caused issues for his academics. But on the football field, Alzado was able to harness his strength and volatile emotion into something more positive. Reports conflict on whether or not he was a good player. My guess is he was. But regardless, he didn't receive any interest from colleges, perhaps due to either not being a good player, bad grades, or his police record. Alzado did want to continue playing football, so he attended a community college in Kilgore, Texas. But despite his talent, he was told he wasn't good enough to be on the team. Alzado later speculated that his befriending an African-American teammate was to blame. He ended up transferring to Yankton College in South Dakota, where he was miraculously spotted years later by Denver Broncos assistant coach Stan Jones. Also, it's worth pointing out that during his college years, Alzado participated in amateur boxing and made it to the semifinals of the 1969 Midwest Golden Gloves boxing tournament. Now, for his football career, it was a shock at the time when Alzado was drafted, because almost nobody in the NFL had ever heard of him. But it's not like fourth rounders are for sure locks to play anyway. In fact, 2/3 of the fourth rounders from the 1971 class either barely played or never took a single snap. This wasn't the case for Alzado. He became a starter right away due to injury and was an impact player as a rookie. My first year with the Broncos, I was like a maniac, Alzado said. I outran, out-hit, out-anythinged everybody.
Being the best is hard to achieve. That's the most important thing in my life right now.
By 1978, Alzado had well established himself as a premier NFL player. He had spent 8 years as a prominent figure on Denver's Orange Crush defense.
They were called the Orange Crush. Well, Lyle was the Orange Crush. All the interviews were Lyle, Lyle, Lyle.
And had become one of the top players in the league. Alzado tallied 64.5 sacks in that time, along with back-to-back Pro Bowl appearances in 77 and 78. While he had statistical success on the field, Alzado's behavior was at an unusual level of aggression.
He had great threats. He was a great threatener. You know, I'll kill you out in the parking lot in front of your family, you know, that kind of thing.
Talking about how he was gonna tear people's necks off and spit down their throats.
According to BrownsNation.com, as Alzado was making a name for himself, both teammates and opponents noticed that he was a bit off during games. Fellow Bronco defenders frequently found themselves having to pull Alzado away from offensive players after the whistle. He would work himself into such a lather that he was akin to a crazed maniac on the field. Tom Jackson, a linebacker for the Broncos, mentioned years later how it was difficult to figure out the real Alzado. Around this time, the sports world was cracking down on steroid use, as it was becoming increasingly more used by athletes. In 1975, the International Olympics Committee added anabolic steroids to its list of banned substances. There were rumors at the time about Alzado using steroids. However, Alzado denied these claims. Perhaps this man really was just crazy on another level. Alzado himself said this in 1977, quote, "Without football, I'd probably be dealing dope on a street corner or sitting in a jail somewhere." Also in 1977, Alzado got his first taste of playing in a Super Bowl, but unfortunately, they lost that game. Although they were manhandled by the Cowboys, Alzado himself put up solid numbers with 4 tackles and 2 sacks. He was a hard-nosed, intense player known for his ruthless motor on the field. But in contrast to that, off the field, he was beloved by the Denver community.
What would you like to be when you get old enough to be it?
Football player.
Alzado was described by the Daytona Beach newspaper as, quote, "a heroic model, the kind of person that underprivileged and wayward kids would like to be." He was involved in countless youth organizations, receiving the Byron Whizzer White Award for his community service in 1977. To this point, Alzado was mostly known as a hard-nosed football player who was a local hero to kids and the community in Denver. However, his story arc as a ruthless brawler further developed by the summer of 1979.
Rooms for these interviews.
Lyle, you're about to fight Muhammad Ali. Are you Rocky or are you just crazy?
Alzado had a supposed 44-1 amateur boxing record, and his big talk of his fighting background led to this exhibition versus Muhammad Ali.
Ain't no man come out of football and jump into my field there and master Muhammad Ali. No, man.
There was a rumor that Alzado, in the midst of a contract dispute, was allegedly using this fight as a negotiation tactic, although some of his comments in other interviews conflict with this.
If I prove to do well, then it could be an opportunity for me to begin another career.
If it was true, the strategy was that he was willing to leave football to become a pro fighter unless a deal in his favor got done. But there is a chance that that wasn't true, and maybe he really did just want to fight the greatest of all time. Ali, 37 at the time, had announced his retirement from pro boxing after his final fight 10 months prior. But this didn't stop him from giving some of his legendary insults.
He is not the great white hope. He's the great white dope.
This gonna be bigger than all his games put together.
Japan's telling to send a crew in. You gonna have a worldwide whooping.
I'm gonna let the rest of this clip play out from the YouTube channel Rich the Fight Historian, as he gives some really cool insight.
Alzado seemed uncomfortable with the banter, and Ali mocked, "Sucker, don't you want to sell some tickets?" And despite Ali's teasing, there was a harsh reality to his words. Ticket sales were far from impressive. Alzado made a bold move by mortgaging his home for $250,000 to secure Ali's share of the purse. Alzado did show a genuine commitment to the event, seeking guidance from the renowned Denver trainer Bobby Lewis. "It's always been a dream of mine to be the heavyweight champion," Alzado said. "I'm not pursuing this for financial gain from the Broncos. I'm serious about this." According to DenverBroncos.com, the two boxed before an estimated 20,000 fans, which included then head coach Red Miller. It was an unscored 8-round exhibition.
Ringside at Mile High Stadium has already come out with the Prince scream that he is so famous for. Alzado seems to be far more comfortable here in round 2 than he was in the opening round. He's exchanged some punches with Ali, taken a couple and landed a few. Alzado has grown accustomed to giving that look to opposing offensive linemen over the year, and Ali doesn't look like you've seen it very often.
The announcers gave Ali the unofficial decision. Alzado's goal from the beginning, like Rocky, was to last all 8 rounds, which he accomplished. He certainly wasn't near the same level of boxing as Ali, but he did receive high praise from him in their post-match interview.
He's got a chance to be a world champion and surely a top contender.
Ultimately, as much as he put on the line for this fight, you'll get a sense of the tortured nature of this man from this next clip.
I would have fought before I played football. It's a dream that I've had half my life, and the reason why I quit boxing was because, well, I don't know how to say this, but my dad was a fighter and turned out to be not such a nice man.
Less than a month after the Ali fight, the contract dispute between Alzado and the Broncos resulted in a trade to Cleveland, a move that Alzado later admitted he was bitter about.
Denver was a place that took away everything that I dreamt of. I gave them loyalty. They made me bitter by taking that from me.
The Cleveland Browns are a team that can win a championship. We are going to win a championship no matter what anybody says and what anybody thinks.
For 3 years, Alzado's time in Cleveland saw individual success and some team success, but the Browns fell into ruins by 1981. Alzado, 32 at the time, was nearing the end of his career. With Cleveland looking to rebuild, they traded their all-pro D-end to the Raiders.
So you feel you found a home now?
I don't know if I'll ever find a home, but this is the closest thing to it.
This is where the legend of Lyle Alzado really takes off. The Raiders are one of the most unique NFL franchises. Beginning with their color scheme, silver and black, while also being from Oakland, the Raiders branded themselves as the bad boys of the NFL, and perhaps all of American sports in general. Typically, NFL teams in this era were more traditional with their approach. No one is bigger than the team. no one lets their personality shine. It's almost military-like, which made sense at the time because a lot of the influential coaches were military men. In stark contrast, the Raiders, under Al Davis, utilized the idea of bringing in the rejects, the oddballs, the fighters, and the big personalities, pretty much anyone who didn't belong in other places. The crazy thing was, this strategy paid off. The Raiders had been a regular contender throughout the 70s and early 80s, and they won 2 Super Bowls prior to 1982. A group of outspoken outcasts who just want to win? Talk about the perfect team for Lyle Alzado. It was such a match made in heaven that Alzado said later on he wished he had played his whole career with the Raiders. Also, the same year Alzado arrived, 1982, was the same year that the franchise moved from Oakland to LA. This would become another factor in the rise of Alzado's popularity later on. Now, 82 was the strike year. It was huge national news throughout the season. Teams ended up playing only 9 regular season games, opposed to the normal 16. And the Raiders were one of the teams that handled this situation well, as they produced a dominant 8-1 regular season record. And one of their most important players, NFL Comeback Player of the Year, Lyle Alzado. In their first playoff game, Alzado helped the Raiders dominate his previous team. Then in the second round, one of the most infamous moments of the decade took place.
Alzado going out of his head there, stripped the helmet right off Chris Ward's head and threw it.
I couldn't believe they didn't throw Alzado out. When Alzado threw the helmet, God bless, I was back there almost, missed me by about a foot.
Quickly thereafter, this prompted the NFL to create a rule outlawing helmet throwing, as it didn't exist beforehand. This became known as the Lyle Alzado rule. Now, here's the difference in PR today versus back then. When Myles Garrett used Mason Rudolph's helmet as a weapon, this was his initial response.
I lost my cool and I regret it. It's going to come back to hurt our team.
Now, let's compare that to Alzado's response to his helmet incident.
I don't like Chris Ward. He's a big mouth, he's a hot dog, he runs his mouth, and if I had a chance to have him swallow his helmet, I'd have done it.
It's also worth pointing out how serious the NFL's protocol is now compared to back then. Garrett was suspended indefinitely, while Alzado simply received a personal foul penalty and kept on playing. The Raiders ended up losing that game, but they came back the following season and dominated once again, this time reaching the Super Bowl. Alzado, known for his threats by this point, said this before the game.
He's a great athlete, and if I get a chance in the game to tear his head off, I'll do that.
While Alzado didn't rip Theismann's head off, he did manage to take part in something much more profound, as he helped the Raiders go on to dominate that game. After the Raiders' 38-9 victory, television cameras caught Alzado crying on the sidelines. Some say this was the high point in Alzado's life. Following their Super Bowl victory, Alzado played 2 more seasons with the Raiders before an Achilles injury ended his career. Throughout his playing days, especially during those final years with the Raiders, Alzado was as popular as most quarterbacks. His antics, combined with team success, made him a formidable figure in the NFL landscape. He was, also in the mid-80s, perhaps the NFL player most rumored to be taking anabolic steroids, rumors which he continued to deny. He even appeared in Stop the Madness, a 1985 anti-drug music video sponsored by the Reagan administration. Nevertheless, after retiring from the NFL, Alzado was a star in LA still, and looking for a new career, Alzado tried to become a movie star. He appeared in commercials.
Hey Lyle, great job.
Thanks. Bleach white makes it easy.
TV shows, and 15 movies. Ultimately, none of them were good. After struggling to find a new path throughout the 4 years he was retired, Alzado returned to a familiar place.
I can still kick ass. I plan on proving that. It doesn't matter who I'm going to play against or what the situation is. I'm going to accomplish what I'm set out to do.
Alzado ended up appearing in 1 preseason game, but ultimately, he injured his knee during camp and was released from the team. There was a noticeable difference in how Alzado looked in 1985 compared to 1990. However, The difference just 1 year later was much more shocking. This was Lyle Alzado in 1991, not too long after finding out he had inoperable brain cancer. Around the same time, he came out to the public with the truth. The July 1991 edition of Sports Illustrated featured Alzado on the cover with the tagline, "I lied," admitting to his long-term use of steroids.
If I had to make the decision to be part of pro football for 16 years, I wouldn't give up my life for it.
In college, Alzado went from 195 pounds as a freshman to 300 as a senior. He admitted to experimenting with steroids at the time and just never stopped. He also estimated that at least 75% of players he played with in the NFL used steroids. At the height of his steroid and HGH abuse, Alzado estimated he spent $30 grand a year on the drugs, often buying them at gyms around the country. Even after his playing days, he continued to take them because, according to him, he was addicted mentally and physically. He was even warned about the effects by a doctor in 1982. But of course, when you've built an entire career on using them, as well as being addicted, it's very difficult to give up at that point. Alzado also said this: "It wasn't worth it. If you're on steroids or human growth hormone, stop. I should have." After receiving a radical chemotherapy treatment and contracting pneumonia, Alzado died on May 14, 1992, at his home in Portland. The story of Lyle Alzado serves as a cautionary tale, a man who did whatever it took to stay in the NFL, and in the end, it cost him his life.
Can portray me any way they want because I don't give a damn. I am what I am. And until those people touch me close enough, they'll never know what I am. If they want to see me in this interview or in a newspaper article and say, "What's the matter with this guy?" Let them say it. But don't you analyze me and don't you tell me what I am until you get close enough to understand what I am. Then you can make an analysis of me. But don't you dare do it until then.
It's been real tough down in the trenches. Alzado's about as strong as there is.
Watch him, he's giving him everything he has. He's clubbing, face mask, grab anything.